Each of these pieces are part of the historic narrative, part of who we are, and there's more. But how easy it is to forget, and then how easy it is to go on and live into today, to come together and think about the different languages and the beauty of tongues dancing on people's heads, and then to go back into the world, to smile. We've been to church, life is good. Some of us even wore red to make sure that people know it's Pentecost, right? But what is the Spirit calling us to do now? If we look at the story of a new creation, if we look at the story of being called, if we look at what it means to move from the richness of diversity and to meld that into one purpose going forward, what does that mean for us here and now, today? Are you ready to do something new? Are you ready to try out, to test your wings in a new way? I hope the answer is yes, because we've got some exciting things happening here at Calvary that are going to inspire and stir us, but also challenge us beyond belief. We had an incredible meeting on Thursday night with our friends at El Milagro, a church that is a mission church, bilingual Spanish, that is excited about coming here and dwelling with us at Calvary. They recognize that as a small congregation, they are not going to be able to keep this large building that they own. So they have said, can we partner in very organic ways, starting with renting space in the building, but looking at ways that that vision will lead us forward. What an incredible gift and ministry. Imagine 2 languages at least echoing throughout this sanctuary. What will that look like? What will that sound like? It's not always comfortable. What happens when someone has a meeting booked in one room and someone else is already in there? Or when someone doesn't clean the silverware and put it back in the drawer? Or what happens when we simply just don't understand when someone comes into the building and exactly what they're saying or asking for, and we point them in the wrong direction? It could all happen. It's part of the messiness of the day, but it's also an incredible gift, and I believe it is where we are being called and led as people of this Holy Spirit, who step out, believing there is something new happening. And what does it mean for us then to be called? Called as people of faith. Perhaps as we glance around, we don't see flames of fire dancing over our neighbors' heads. But I assure you, even if they are not above the heads, there is something burning in the heart. That Holy Spirit lighting who we are. Calling us forth in the world to live richly in our vocation. I'm always drawn to the stories of Martin Luther King Jr. and what he talks about with regard to vocation. He talks about even those who are street cleaners and custodians, doing it with gusto. I'm paraphrasing there, of course, but that's what he talks about, is living fully with the vocation that is in you. So whether if you are a street cleaner or a teacher, whether you are a pastor or a lawyer, a doctor, a professional in other ways, that you live fully in what the Spirit is calling you to do and to be about. The Spirit rests on us. And we take our faith, the teachings of this Jesus who has walked before us and the Spirit, and we allow it to lighten and enlighten where we are going. Just like this forebear in faith, Moses. And then, the universality of today. As we hear the languages, we become clear that faith is not just for those who do it right or do it in a certain way, those that go to the temple. that faith becomes a living matter in our homes and dwelling places and in our lives, that pushes us out into the world in ways that we haven't even imagined. In craziness. Imagine a bunch of men and women going out into the street and talking languages that no one even thought they knew. And then, as they are talking to have those who ridicule, look at them. They must be drunk. Drunk. Are we willing to come across as a little bit crazy? To look like fools, walking around the streets, doing something that might not be comfortable, where people might look at us and say, look at them. Have you seen what they are doing over there? Have you seen what they're doing at Calvary? They sing songs that come from Palestine and India and Argentina. They're not the good old hymns that we sang when I was a kid. Have you heard about Calvary? They welcome people who might be different. They welcome people who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender. And people from different racial and ethnic backgrounds, and people who may not be like us. They're a little crazy. Maybe drunk. But then we get our first sermon, really, of the Christian church, saying, you know what? It's only 9 o'clock in the morning. They're not drunk. But they are doing a new thing. And they're willing to live richly into that. And it is there that we stand today. In that richness of faith and stepping out to live a new word, a new sermon of faith. And today as we gather around the font, we look at the ways that that water and that Spirit rests on each of us. And on a little boy that I'm quite fond of. We recognize the Spirit resting on Torin. We recognize the Spirit resting on each of us. And in the waters of baptism, pushing us to do a new thing. Be part of a new creation. To be called in each and everything that we do. And to live a universal mission that is truly one of God's promise and God's peace. Hear those words today, and together let us live them richly